Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. And it's a first show and a last show. It's very interesting. For almost, say 15 months, the show has been called Coronavirus and Our Mental Health. But today, we've got a new title, Finding Happiness in Hard Times. Now, this does not mean that the coronavirus has disappeared. Pandemic is still officially on, but things have changed. And there's so many other negative things in our life that are causing people problems that we need to focus on a whole bunch of negativities. And the way we've been doing that, and the way I hope to continue to do that, is to focus on the positives. The positives, well, I almost said trumping the negatives, but I'll rephrase that and say overcoming the negatives. So that's the direction that we're going to continue to go in, and it's going to be able to address a lot of different problems. Periodically, I will keep you up to date if there's any changes in coronavirus, but right now, what we're looking at is still a high infection rate, but less lethal. And we're handling it better. And while there's still problems with old COVID and with people who have physical challenges, we need to move on and work at the solutions rather than the problems. And that's what happiness does. Happiness is the solutions that we're going to be talking about and continue to do so. And today I have my special friend, Daniel Lev, who's a double talented person. He's both a rabbi and a psychotherapist. And we're going to talk about the interactions and how religion and psychotherapy help each other to help people. Welcome to the show again, Daniel. It's great to have you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You know, I was going to tell the audience, religion and psychotherapy have been around a long time, especially religion. And oftentimes, in olden times, they were quite separate. But more and more today, they're coming together. And we see clergy using a lot of counseling techniques. We see psychotherapists utilizing spirituality and other techniques that we borrow from religion, and all to the benefit of our clients. Now, I think maybe a good place to start with our show today, and by the way, Daniel is called the Comfort Doc, which I love. He brings comfort to people and helps them find happiness. So maybe a good place to start is how you got in both fields and how you're helping, how you're finding out how to help people utilizing both areas.
Well, really, they're both kind of, like anything, we get into things that reflect who we are. And I was more of an internal person interested in how my psyche worked, how I worked as a person, and then also interested in how people and my interactions with them, why people do what they do, what can be helpful. And so both spirituality and psychology are very much involved in understanding in different ways why people do what they do and how to help with difficulties. And apropos of your show, how to bring oneself into more happiness while facing challenging situations.
Well, the one thing I really like about your approach, and by the way, that's my approach as well, is that we both work with individuals. And too often in the past, both religion and psychotherapy have had doctrine. And it's sort of the teaching of the doctrine as a way of fitting our clients or people who need help into our particular focus area. Nowadays, thankfully, more and more psychotherapists and clergy are working toward the individual. And instead of trying to fit the individual to the particular type of therapy, we're fitting the therapy to the individual. And I certainly think that's one of your strengths and, certainly something that I've worked on my whole career. So maybe we could talk a little bit about how you take something and, sort of lead the person to solutions to some of their problems that they have instead of giving them the solutions, opening doors instead of pushing them through doors, so to speak. So maybe you could give us some ideas on how you work that out.
Absolutely. And again, I don't have all the answers, but my understanding from my experience, again, from what you were saying, various spiritual traditions, some have more of an external way of engaging in things. There are the rules and things of that sort, and those are important. But it's looking at that internal aspect of a person, and everybody's different. So I work with people based on who they are and, what their problem is, what they bring in. And often if it's something from a spiritual perspective that also can intersect with psychology, it's what's happening right now. Where are you in the present moment? A lot of spiritual traditions have that in common, helping a person come to the present, whether it's coming to the present to be with God or just being mindful where you are and what is happening, and being aware of the limitations that sometimes we get into when we have thoughts or feelings or assumptions that can guide us in ways that causes trouble and take us away from happiness. So as we can identify some of that and help the person just be in the present moment as best they can, accept whatever they're dealing. Like if I'm working with someone in chronic pain, often people have a hard time accepting that. And so working with them on how to accept the situation, but not necessarily accept the negative thoughts that may be going through their mind that are making them feel bad. And so helping them connect to things that are actually naturally joyful. Like one woman I'm working with, she loves going to the beach, but she has this terrible neck pain. Well, she has been able to allow herself to prevent the neck pain from preventing her, and especially the thoughts about that pain, from going to the beach. And she does it in a different way, so it works for her body. And once she gets there, she feels so much better.
Absolutely. But the problem with all that is it's easy to say, but hard to do. Your example is great, but my guess is not only working as a therapist, but actually teaching, students in graduate school to be a therapist that's hard to bring about, or we can bring it about temporarily and all of a sudden they're back at the old place. And that can be discouraging both for the client and for the therapist. So, we tell people to be in the moment. And if we're lucky, they get in the moment and see some things. And then all of a sudden, things come crashing back. They turn on the news and there's all this negativity that's surrounding them. And all of a sudden, they forget to look up to the sky and see the clouds, to look around them and see the mountains and the trees and the beauty that is Hawaii. And they're right back into, oh, my God, we're in climate change. The war is going on. We got a big problem with mass shootings. How do you get them there so that they can stay there more often than
well, again, the show is short, so I can't go into my big long, but a brief way to say it is you meet the person where they are. And one way to do that is ask, what is your goal? What would you like to do? Like one fellow I work with has been, again, another chronic pain patient, very depressed, has been just laying around most of the time. And he connected to a goal. Well, that goal can then help him start moving towards something because he feels motivated. And his goal was to go back to work. So I said, you can sit at a computer, which is where he would usually work, but just start with 5 minutes. Well, you're sitting at the computer. I don't have to say, be present, except just do that practice. That brings him into the present. That brings him into what makes his life meaningful. And as we learned, from numerous therapists in the past, like Viktor Frankl, finding meaning is central to religion and psychotherapy. So helping the person find their meaning, and then they can move forward. Now, certain skills are also helpful, like meditation is a general skill that helps a person be able to not be dragged around by negative thoughts all the time or feelings, that they can learn how to control their own attention where it goes. As Rabbi Baal Shem Tov said, wherever your attention is, that's where you are. So that's another skill to answer your question. What do you do with a person is to train them in that. That gives them a general training on how to focus. This fellow went from 5 minutes in front of a computer. Now he's doing 8 hours a day, but he does it in a way that fits his body. Over a 12-hour period, he takes a lot of breaks. That helped him to find more happiness and to move forward.
Yeah, and that's great. That's terrific that you were able to do that. And I'm sure you've done that with many of your clients, and that's what makes you the comfort doc. And I'm I'm envious of that, I'll tell you. The
I'm
problem
not 100%, believe me.
the interesting thing is I'm also a movie buff. So I'm watching, a lot of the new movies that came out, especially with the 2022 Oscars just finishing up. And a lot of them embrace what's really happening in life. So, I'm watching this scene and the person is sort of doing some breathing exercise, doing some meditation. He's taking in his breath, and holding it in and sort of letting things drift away. And then he brings it out and then he brings it in again and he starts feeling good. And bang, the phone rings and he picks up his phone and he says, whoa, and all of a sudden the breathing is gone, and he's talking to somebody and somebody's giving him a lot of stress and he goes, and,
Right.
Or you go to the mall and you walk down the mall and you see everybody walking like this.
Right.
How do we help them, people with the phone phobia, for instance?
Well, again, a lot of I'll just use meditation as an example. Meditation is not just this, not just sitting and focusing. It's a way of using that, extending that in the field. It's called informal mindfulness. So while you're doing the dishes, be aware of doing the dishes. All right. Be aware there are things that are going to distract you, like a phone, like a screaming kid. Okay. And things that don't need your attention in the immediate moment, you'll learn to say, oh, there's the phone, and come back to doing the dishes. Or if you're doing formal sitting, I am sitting here, I am dedicating 15 minutes to just focus on my breath. And I'll notice things and then I'll come right back to focus. And if the phone rings, I'll let it ring. And remember, next time I'll shut off the ringer, Go to the mall, same thing, whatever, it's a challenge to be present. And again, from a spiritual perspective, whether you are more theistic and say, I'm trying to be in the presence of God wherever I go, or I'm just trying to be present with the world around me, same experience. Different interpretation, but same kind of experience. So that's sort of what I instruct people is normal. Distractions are all over the place, and you just let it go as best you can and come back to focus. Yeah, and it takes time.
It does take time. That's the key there, taking time. And we're not very good at taking time, and neither are our clients. But
to interrupt you,
yeah,
because I'm Jewish and we love interrupting. To interrupt you, this fellow who can now sit at a computer for 8 hours over 12 hours, he started very small. Well, when you have something that's inspiring you, that builds patience. So he built patience for himself.
Yeah, and you have to find that. They have to find it, and we have to help them find that.
Yeah,
what inspires them. Sometimes I use both the past and the future to stay in the present. For instance, the example that you gave with washing dishes. I think I've mentioned this to you before and maybe even to the audience, but washing dishes was very special to me when I was growing up because it was my time with my mother. They didn't have dishwashers in those days, and if they did, we couldn't afford them anyway. So after every night, after dinner, she would go and wash and I would go and wipe, and we would talk. And so now she's been gone for over 40 years, but she's still with me. Mm-hmm. And every time I do dishes, and I do dishes every night because I cook for myself, and because I've got cockroaches and ants for my friends who remind me to clean up and don't leave the mess overnight, I listen to them, and at night after I finish with my dinner, I do the dishes. Wow. And that's my time to talk to her.
Yeah.
And I talk to her with a pleasant memory. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, if you're asking somebody to do something and you can associate it with a pleasant memory, it makes it a lot easier for them and a lot more meaningful and a lot more chance for success.
Well, this is another great example. And I would say both spiritually and psychologically, that's a sacred moment.
Yeah.
That's a very deep, meaningful, sacred moment. And some might disagree with me. I think that's as sacred as praying in a church or a synagogue. In that moment, you are going inside, you are having a meaningful connection, because that's another thing that psychological health and spiritual health have in common, is to feel connected, whether it's community or deity or the world or oneself. And you feel this calm, soothing, meaningful, deep profound connection. And that is sacred time. And I just recently suggested to one of my clients that she can make some sacred time for herself, even to take a walk. That can be a deeply spiritual experience, and it's psychologically very healthy.
Absolutely. You can work it with the future too. Sometimes not sometimes, oftentimes I'd ask my clients, I'd say, okay, let's talk about where you're at today. And let's talk about where you want to be in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get them, that helps me get them away from the negativity of today. Because nobody wants to say, yeah, in 5 years, I want to be going through the same, I almost said a bad word there, same junk that I'm doing today. I want to be doing something happier, better, and it gets them to thinking about what that is. And if we can get them thinking about what they want in the future, just as they have that sacred moment from the past, it's a sacred sort of premonition or a wish, sacred wish maybe of what. Then we can get into what they can do to get there.
Yeah, and that's when I was talking about with what's your goal. Depression likes to tell a person you have no future. And when you have a goal, you say, oh, yes, I do, because next Tuesday I'm going for a walk. And next Thursday I'm going to start this art class or whatever it is. So yes, setting these goals, like the fellow I told you who's now working 8 hours at the computer, he set this goal, and you can just see the more he was able to do this, the less depressed he was on average, and the more comfortable he felt in his body.
Yeah.
So absolutely working toward that future in terms of doable goals, and they don't have to be huge. They can be small, like taking a walk once a week. Whatever the thing is, can lift you up.
Yeah. Let me just sidestep here and talk about, positivity. It gets real frustrating for my, soon-to-be counselors who I'm working with in graduate school. Because the client comes in and the client has a whole string of negativities, whole string of bad things that have happened. He's got a problem with his in-laws. He's got a problem at work. He's got a problem here. He's upset by the news. He can't stay away from the news. So you get this whole litany. And by the way, this happens at parties as well. When you go to a party and you get with somebody who's running this negativity thing, it brings you down. And it continues to keep them down. And even as a therapist, it can bring you down. Somehow you've got to change the tempo, change the pace, do something to bring them away from that negative. And they want to hang on to it. They want to hang on to it. And somehow you got to help them get out of that. What are the things that you find that most successful at turning them toward the positive, away from the negative?
Well, I never make anybody do anything, at least consciously. I want to find out where they are. So I will say something that might sound a little paradoxical, but after laying out exactly what you just said, well, it looks like you're doing this. Is that serving you well? Yeah. Does that feel like something you want to keep doing? And if they say, yeah, what do you mean doing that? It's just who I am. Then there's nothing to work on.
Yeah.
Except maybe something else they might. What is important to me is, what does the person identify as the problem? What is the difficulty? We'll work on that, but it might change something else. So let's say, he feels, I don't know what I'm going to do work-wise, with my life. I just retired. And so we'll work on some of those things. And then when they do, they might start feeling better and talking less negatively at parties. So that might affect that problem that they don't identify as a problem, but other people might say. So I really want to find out what they want to do, and then I'll work with them. But if they say, oh, okay, yeah, I know I do that, I'll say, okay, so on the one hand, you're doing this, you can do something else. There's two kinds of pain: the pain of what you've been doing now, where you're acting that way and people look down on you, and the pain of change. Which is the bigger pain? That's the one I know you want to work on. So if you want to change, then you will start doing some different things. If you say, I'll just deal with being cranky, then that's fine too. Because it's not up to me, because they're not ready yet. Ram Dass talks about, helping people work out their karma, and we cannot force them to work out their karma or, whatever kind of life work they need to work out until they're ready for it.
Yeah.
I can just be a presence. I can be supportive. And at a certain point, they may say, well, nothing's happening. Okay, see ya. And they come back, which has happened to me. Maybe it's happened to you, 6 months later, and now they're ready to do something.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like you say, they are hard at seeing themselves. And now some of them clearly see the problem and they say, yeah, I've got to change. And that's sort of your first step is worked out and you can go from there. But a lot of them, like you're saying, do not recognize that. And I do a variation of what you're saying. And that is, I ask them to put themselves, like a fly in the room where the people are talking about them. What are the people's take on you? Now, this is your take. You just told me your take. Mm-hmm. That you're fine with not doing anything, that you're fine with being grumpy, and that's okay. And I'm not going to argue with that. I just would like to know, what do you think other people are thinking about you? I mean, if you were there where they didn't have to worry about talking in front of your face, but if you weren't there and they were just talking to each other and saying, well, Ken he's got this problem, and most of them, of course, know what other people are saying about them. They're just ignoring it. And that helps them get to that. So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, sometimes that'll jog their thinking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. Mm-hmm.
Now, let me see. Well, we're getting sort of close to the end. We got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to make sure we got to the audience. And Daniel, I would sort of like you to, because there's a lot of people watching who may feel that it's very hard for them to get to the positive. It's very hard for them to get over the negative. Mm-hmm. And they are sort of in the spiritual camp, but they're not. A lot of my friends have been spiritual and they're more practical now and less spiritually inclined. And some of the people have been optimists and are now in the pessimist camp and things like that. And they just seem sort of stuck there. What would you, if the audience is sitting out there saying, yeah, but I'm just feeling so down, this is all good, but what advice could you give them to sort of take away from this show and sort of maybe something for them to think about or do or change between now and the next show?
Again, when I'm with a person, first I'm just hanging out with them and listening. But if we're coming to some kind of things to do, if they feel up to it, I would recommend take something really small that would be kind of nice for you, a little something. Even if you opened your front door and took in 3 or 4 nice fresh air breaths, if that would be nice for you. Or looking at your backyard, doing a little something that you would enjoy, that your body can do, okay? Don't make it huge. And yes, there'll be these thoughts and these feelings there. Allow those thoughts and feelings to be there, but as best you can, redirect your attention as best you can to that flower or that TV show, that movie, but really watch the movie. Don't have the movie on and think terrible thoughts all the time, but really focus on the plot or focus on a book or talk with someone on the phone who is a good person who you enjoy talking with, okay? Just a little something can start you in that direction. Of course, as you probably would say, also advise them to work with a therapist or sometimes with a spiritual counselor. It just depends on the person for more ongoing support if they're feeling really low and they want to shift their life a little, but feel that it's way so heavy,
Yeah, the one thing, that's great. I totally agree with you. And the one thing that I would add to that, I have somebody that I'm working with now who I've been trying, some of the exact same things that you're talking about, open the door, look out at the garden, look at all this. Mm-hmm. And so the person opens the door, looks out at the garden and says, oh my God, I've got to do this chore. I've got to rake these leaves. I got to do this. I got to do some trimming. I've got to cut this back, And whatever I have them looking at, they see is something that they're failing at or something they haven't done, And one of the things that I've been trying to do, and oftentimes it's very helpful for a lot of people, is instead of viewing the world as what you've been doing wrong or what you've been doing, but look at the world as how it's affecting other people. And can you help somebody else? Instead of looking at your yard and saying, I've got a lot of these things to do, say to yourself, there's a volunteer thing happening down at the local town, and people are going to do a beach cleanup. They're going to try to help the environment. Or we're going to go out and we're going to do Meals on Wheels and help people.
I have a great example of that. Fellow I worked with for a while, a lot of depression, anxiety. Now he's on the phone counseling a group of 20 people at a homeless shelter who are dealing with all kinds of problems, and he's using a lot of these same ideas, and he feels so good.
Yeah.
So definitely serving other people is another way of spiritually and psychologically helping yourself feel more joyful, more whole. Absolutely.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And Daniel, we're down to about the last minute, and I just wanted to thank you again for coming on. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. And, we have so much in common. And one of the things that both of us are concerned about is just what we've just talked about, and that is helping other people. And certainly that's one of the things that I hope that we can pass on to other people as well. That's the other thing about today. There's so many hard things that people had to deal with, and we're having a hard time dealing with our issues. But if you look around to your friends or other people, a lot of them are having even more problems, and you can be a big help. So,
well, it was a pleasure being here. I hope this was helpful.
Absolutely. It's always helpful talking to you, Daniel. Daniel, the Comfort Doc. Thanks again. Now, for everybody else listening, I certainly wanted to say thanks to the ThinkTech Hawaii staff, for Michael and Jay and Hayley and everybody for supporting us. And I'd like to tell you about in 2 weeks, we'll be back in 2 weeks under our new title, which is Finding Happiness in Hard Times. And we'll be talking about the joy of writing. And we're going to do that with the person who's helping us by running the Oahu Writing Retreat that comes up once a year out at my area of the island, and that's the North Shore. And a lot of people come there, and a lot of people discover that joy of writing. So I hope you'll be with us in 2 weeks. In the meantime, aloha, be safe, and be happy.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.